In 1776, the United States was born, driven by the ideal of manifest destiny.
After the Revolutionary War, the U.S. expanded rapidly, and many Americans eyed the land north of them. British-controlled Canada.
The idea of annexing Canada seemed like a natural progression for the young nation, eager to spread its influence across the continent. The U.S. had already successfully expanded into territories like Florida, but Canada remained under British control.
The desire to annex Canada grew stronger as Americans increasingly believed that the land to the north should be theirs by right.
The War of 1812 provided an opportunity for expansionists in the U.S. to consider annexing Canada while fighting Britain.
Some saw the war as a chance to defeat Britain and claim British North America, today's Canada, bringing it into the fold.
The U.S. military pushed into Canadian territory, with early victories fueling hopes of annexation. However, the war ended in a stalemate, with neither side gaining significant territorial advantage. The Treaty of Ghent restored pre-war boundaries, ending the idea of annexing Canada in the immediate aftermath of the war.
After the War of 1812, U.S. attention shifted westward. Manifest destiny became a guiding principle.
The acquisition of territories like Texas, the Louisiana Purchase, and the Oregon Territory overshadowed any further desire.
Americans moved west, driven by the promise of new opportunities and a belief in the country's future.
The gold rush and the growth of agriculture in the West took center stage, leaving Canada as a distant concern.
The growing wealth and opportunities in the West made the idea of annexing Canada seem less pressing.
While the U.S. shifted focus to the West, tensions with Britain over the Oregon Territory were beginning to rise.
The U.S. sought control over Oregon, an area rich in natural resources and strategic significance.
The Oregon boundary dispute was settled peacefully in 1846 with the Oregon Treaty, establishing the 49th parallel as the boundary.
The peaceful resolution of the Oregon dispute showed that the U.S. could acquire land through diplomacy rather than war.
The settlement of the Oregon Territory made the idea of annexing the entire Canadian region seem increasingly unrealistic.
By the 1860s, the U.S. was embroiled in the Civil War, which pushed any thoughts of annexing Canada to the back burner.
While the Union fought to preserve itself, Canada remained firmly under British control.
The war forced the U.S. to concentrate on its internal conflict, not external expansion.
After the war, the U.S. turned its attention to rebuilding, leaving Canada's annexation in the past. The United States, recovering from war, sought to consolidate power over its existing territories, not expand further.
In 1867, the British North America Act created the Dominion of Canada, marking the birth of
Canada became a semi-autonomous nation with its own government, though it remained part of the British Empire.
This new political status made the idea of annexing Canada even more complicated, as Canada now had its own political structure.
Canadians began to develop their own distinct national identity, making them less inclined to join the United States.
As Canada's autonomy grew, the U.S. turned its attention to other matters, with annexation of Canada becoming increasingly irrelevant.
By the late 19th century, economic differences between the U.S. and Canada became more pronounced.
Canada's economy was closely tied to Britain and Europe, while the U.S. grew rapidly with its industrial boom.
Canada's strong loyalist sentiment toward Britain made any potential union with the U.S. less appealing.
Happy Canada Day, everyone!
Look at us!
Yeah, look at the flags!
With its economic ties to Europe, Canada sought to maintain its independence, while the U.S. turned inward, focusing on its own expansion. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, both nations focused on trade and peaceful coexistence, abandoning the idea of annexation.
Some roads are meant to be experienced, not just traveled.
Diplomatic relations between the two countries flourished, and the idea of annexation seemed far-fetched.
Labor and trade flows between the two nations continued to grow, creating interdependence without the need for annexation.
Today, the US and Canada share the world's longest undefended border, with a strong relationship built on mutual respect and cooperation.
Although the US and Canada never merged, they've grown into strong allies, often working together on military and peacekeeping missions.
Wow, look at the colors! It's absolutely beautiful.
Today, both nations have the world's longest undefended border, a symbol of the trust and cooperation they share. Trade between the US and Canada is vital, with billions of dollars flowing across the border each year, enhancing both economies.
Morning. Proof of citizenship, please.
Here you go. Just visiting Montreal for the weekend.
Have a safe trip.
The US and Canada share an economic partnership that includes innovation, technology, and industries that shape the global market.
From natural resources to renewable energy, the two countries are building a sustainable future together, meeting mutual needs.
Agriculture continues to be another pillar of the US-Canada relationship, with the exchange of crops, livestock, and expertise benefiting both.
Even in space, the US and Canada work together on telecommunications, environmental monitoring, and scientific research.
Both nations enjoy close cultural ties, with families, friends, and communities connecting seamlessly across the border.
Canada's increasing independence culminated in the Statute of Westminster in 1931, allowing the country to make its own laws.
Canada's path to full independence continued through the 20th century, with political and cultural shifts that separated it from British influence.
In 1965, Canada adopted its own flag, symbolizing the final stages of its emergence as a fully independent nation.
Today, Canadian nationalism is firmly rooted in its own history, distinct from the United States and its British colonial past.
Canadian nationalism grew in the late 19th and 20th centuries, with citizens embracing their unique identity separate from that of the U.S.
Canada developed a vibrant cultural scene, with arts, music, and literature celebrating its distinct identity.
The Canadian government played a critical role in defining its national identity, shaping policies that reflected its...
Yeah, woo!
Happy birthday, Canada!
Despite challenges, Canadians have consistently demonstrated their commitment to a unified and independent country.
By the 20th century, the US shifted its focus to other parts of the world, including Europe and Latin America, leaving Canada as a peaceful neighbor.
The U.S. was building international alliances and focusing on global leadership, rather than regional expansion.
The U.S. military, deeply involved in international conflicts, had no real interest in expanding its borders, particularly into Canada.
Trade agreements and economic partnerships with countries worldwide took precedence over territorial expansion.
The U.S. increasingly saw itself as a beacon of freedom and democracy, focusing on global influence rather than territorial expansion. Throughout the 20th century, the U.S. and Canada developed close ties, with easy movement of people, goods, and ideas across their shared border. The two countries signed numerous trade agreements, including the North American Free Trade Agreement (NAFTA), enhancing their economic relationship. U.S. and Canadian troops often cooperated in international peacekeeping missions, sharing common goals for global stability.
See how the expression levels change right at the 48-hour mark.
I noticed that. Let's run the PCR to confirm the knockdown efficiency.
Cultural exchanges and shared values led to deeper bonds between the two nations, despite their separate paths.
Today, US-Canada relations are marked by mutual respect, cooperation, and shared interests on the world stage.
Millions of Americans and Canadians travel across each other's borders each year, enjoying the ease of access and shared experiences.
Both nations celebrate their individual identities while cherishing their strong, peaceful relationship.
From sports to politics, US and Canadian athletes and citizens compete and cooperate, fostering camaraderie on the world stage. Both nations continue to work together in international organizations, sharing values of democracy, human rights, and global peace.
Though the idea of annexation was once considered, The peaceful coexistence of the US and Canada has proven far more beneficial for both nations.
Today, the US and Canada are more connected than ever, with strong economic, cultural, and political ties. Their shared history and values have created an unbreakable bond, fostering cooperation across every aspect of society. In the end, both nations have thrived by respecting their differences, working together as close allies and neighbors.
So good to see you again, my friend.
It really is a symbol of our unity